Hey guys, I'm Ash, travel addict and owner of Adventure Travel Pro. In this series, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know and do when organising your first solo backpacking trip overseas. From overcoming fears, planning your trip, and choosing the right travel gear for you, to things like how do you stay safe and healthy while abroad, or how do you meet people and make friends, and also tips on how to budget effectively so you don't run out of money while you're overseas. It's all here. And I'm so looking forward to holding your hand throughout the entire journey of organising your trip end to end. Now, if you're a first-time solo traveller, you're in luck. I want to give you access to our free solo travel starter pack. This pack includes access to our 5-day solo travel bootcamp mini course and also our free solo travel checklist, where I outline the 10 crucial steps you should follow when organising your first backpacking trip. And it's all for free. Just sign up via the link below and we can get you started. Now let's jump straight into the video. Hey guys, I'm Ash and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be running through a very exciting topic, which is all about planning your itinerary. The first part of creating any itinerary, I think, is to actually get really clear on what are your priorities. What's your non-negotiables in terms of places you must visit or you've always dreamed of visiting and you would be devastated if you didn't get to see that on your trip. So it's pretty much the whole purpose of your trip. What is it? So I always like to think about that first when I start crafting my itinerary, and also my budget, because it makes sure that I'm definitely going to have enough money and I've allowed the time to do the things I really, really, really want to do. So after you know an idea of what are the critical things that you want to do throughout that time period of being in that country, the next thing to think about is how do you actually want to plan out your days? Sometimes I think one of the common mistakes that people make is they try, and I am terrible at this. I am one of used to be. I'm trying to be a lot better now. But what people do is they just cram way too much into every day. And you end up returning home from your trip more exhausted than when you left. And that's not what we want. We want you to feel like fulfilled and that you had an amazing trip, but not that you're just dying, dead by the time you get back home. So what I like to do now is I think it's important to plan out one thing, like one important thing or one big thing that you want to do in your day. And then once you have that big thing, give yourself space. Don't plan anything else. Don't have, if you're going to do a tour in the morning, maybe leave your evening free so that you can be spontaneous and do whatever you want to do. Or maybe if you're going to an evening event, then the opposite, leave your morning free so you can sleep in, take your time, chill out as much as you please. So I often tend to do it where even if I have something organized every day, I always have free space. And sometimes I might even just have a day where, the stuff I want to do is just optional at my own leisure. And otherwise I just have complete free time. So it could be, you want to maybe do some sightseeing or visit a museum or, just walk around the town. But there's not actually a set structure of the day. You can do that at whatever time you want based on how you're feeling. And I do feel this is really important because, one, our bodies are they operate best in oscillation or periods of oscillation. So where you have moments of excitement and busyness and, running around and, having action, and then also periods of low moments of where you're relaxing and you're taking time to yourself and slowing down a little bit. So I think it's important to try and find a balance when organizing your itinerary, and even sometimes just allowing a free day right in the smack bang in the middle or at the end of a big week, so that you've just got downtime to do whatever you want to do. It also allows that if you get sick or you're not feeling well, you have an extra day as a buffer. And also if you've got travel time between destinations. So whether you're flying in the evening, flying or arriving in the morning, or if you're catching trains or buses, it's just so important to not cram everything in down to the last hour or the last minute, because that's where then if you miss something, everything else spirals out of control and you end up like that what do you call that, the carry on effect of where something goes wrong and it stuffs up everything else in your day. Whereas if something goes wrong and you've allowed space, it's not going to bother you as much and it's not going to really destroy your itinerary. So definitely something I've learned over the years. And again, I tend to be a little bit kind of perfectionist sometimes with organizing my trips. And I think now as I'm getting older and I travel more, I think I'm learning more and more of the importance of actually just allowing time for spontaneity or allowing time for rest. So take my advice, please take account of this when you plan your trip. So when talking about allowing time for travel time, some good ways you can do this is simply just check on Google Maps before you arrive of how long is it going to take you between destinations, or if you're, have a look at the train timetables and, you might not have booked it yet, but just getting a little bit of an idea of how long things are going to take. Even flights, for example, like how long are your flights going to take between your destination? Because that will then really help you to kind of work out, okay, great, my flight's going to take 3 hours in the morning. I just won't organize anything in the morning. Let's just do something in the evening. So they're really good tips to consider. And yeah, just check out before you really lock your itinerary down. I often like to write out a draft and then I kind of check everything as I go. And then once I'm really happy with the layout of it, then I'll just go for it and just like either book it all, or if it's a small trip or like a 2-week trip, or if it's more than that, then I'll just maybe book a section of it and then just, gradually book things as I go. So talking about booking, I think this brings us to another important point about booking accommodation. So when it comes to accommodation, there are a couple of things that I really don't, can't quite say that, but there are a couple of things that I look for, let's say, when I'm looking at accommodation. So some of them will be location. Is it located close to like walking distance or public transport distance from the main touristy area or the main old town or the city centre? Like how easy is it to get to and from the main sites and back to your accommodation? I like to look for places that are pretty centrally located unless I'm looking for a certain type of experience. Like if I wanted to just have alone time and just get back in touch with nature or just ground myself a bit. Sometimes like I did that in the UK where I actually will go and find places that are a bit outside of the center so I can actually have space and like breathe fresh air and then just catch a bus or catch something into the city and it's not like the end of the world. And I also like to look, like it just again depends on your budget, but I often, if I'm traveling for a long time, I like to stretch my budget as far as it can go. So I'll tend to alternate between having, sort of cheaper shared accommodation like hostels or guest houses or B&Bs or just Airbnbs, all different types of accommodation. And then what I like to do maybe every now and again, so maybe different points throughout my trip, is that I'll actually then treat myself and book a luxury hotel or a luxury villa or a luxury something, so that then I can experience both worlds of like where my money kind of gets stretched a bit further, but then I actually get to treat myself and experience something really cool as part of my trip. So that's something that I love to do and consider when booking accommodation, so that then I get a whole diverse range of experience. So have a think when you're booking accommodation of, do you want to do something like that? Or do you just want to completely cheapskate it and just do, really cheap hostels or couch surfing or different things? Or are you the type of traveler that you like your own space and you actually you feel like you'll enjoy it more if you actually spend a little bit more money on accommodation? The main tip I would say to you though is I always have this discussion with people, but you actually aren't probably going to spend a lot of time at your accommodation most of the time. So often your accommodation is just a place to sleep, especially when you're commuting between destinations. So like if I'm going to be in a destination where I'm going to have a lot of downtime, it's at my own free leisure, I'm going to be spontaneous, I've only really got a couple of sites that I want to see and it's really just me walking around the town, then often I will opt for like nicer accommodation. But if I'm going somewhere and I've got a tour all day, or I've got, plans for a couple of days in a row and I'm really not going to be in my accommodation at all, then I will probably then downgrade where I'm staying, because ultimately it's just a bed to sleep in. So when it comes to booking accommodation, there are a couple of sites that I particularly love to use. The main ones are booking.com, Hostel World, and Airbnb. I used to use a lot. I must admit they've kind of dropped off the radar for me. I'm just finding that a lot of their experiences and their places to stay, although unique and they've got a lot of great things, sometimes I'm just finding it's getting more and more expensive. Like every time I look at it, that it kind of like takes away from the original purpose of why Airbnb was created. So the next part that I want to talk about is public transport, or just general transport between destinations. So something which I always find is a really good thing to do before you go into a destination is, one, check if Uber exists there, or if they use Uber regularly. Is it a safe method of transport? Because gosh, Uber can actually save you a ton of money when you're traveling as well in destinations where it's readily used and it's cost effective. So check if Uber's there. If Uber isn't there, then maybe do some research on the main public transport sources, or main reliable public transport sources in that city or town. And also think about, have a look at taxis. Are they generally pretty safe? Is there many scams that relate to taxis? I think it's just a really good idea to research what public transport options will be available to you when you land in your desired destination. And Uber's great. I walk a lot. I walk so much. When I travel, I average 20,000 steps a day. Sometimes I'll just prefer to get accommodation that's close to the main hotspots and then just walk and walk and walk. But if you're not like that, totally fine. That's where your public transport comes in handy. You've got your taxis, your buses, trains, trams, all of the above. And then obviously your flights between further away destinations. There's a couple of really good, coach and bus companies and rail networks throughout different continents. For example, in Europe, Rail Europe is great. I love Flixbus. Flixbus is awesome for just sort of cheap bus fares between main cities, and they're all tourist spots. And then you've got, depending on where you are in the world, they all have sort of their own local systems, which, some places are more reliable than others. So that's why, do your research so that you're well equipped before you go. Another great app, which I love to use, and I have it always downloaded on my phone, and I actually use it a lot, but they have a website version as well, is Rome to Rio. So I'll link their website in the below. But what I love about their site is that if you want to get between destinations from somewhere, they will very quickly and easily provide you a breakdown of, what your options are from a flight perspective, how long it's going to take, how long is it a train ride or a taxi ride, or I think it's blah, blah car. And they've got all these different options. They give you an idea of how much that type of transport would cost approximately, and how long approximately it would take to get to the destination. So it can really help you to determine that trade-off between, do you want the faster method of transport or do you want the cheaper method of transport? And it gives you all of those options. So check out Rome to Rio. I think they're awesome. And it's an easy app to just download to your phone and help you throughout your journey. Another thing to keep in mind when planning your itinerary, and this is a really important one, especially if you're planning to travel during peak tourism seasons or peak tourist seasons. So you want to make sure that if, as per that earlier step, you have some things that you 100% are non-negotiable, you will feel really sad if you don't get to experience that on your trip. And you'll feel kind of just a bit less satisfied with your trip if you can't do these things. Book them in advance, because I'm telling you, some of those popular experiences can book out really fast. And if you're only in a place for a couple of days and it's all booked, you don't really have much choice. You don't really have much that you can play with to do those, to kind of try and shuffle around your itinerary to fit it in. So I like to try and even just a rough estimate, I'll try and book something in advance, and I'll actually organize my itinerary around it to make it work so I can actually do the thing that I really, really want to do. And some great websites to check out for that is, my favorite is Get Your Guide. But you also have like your Via Tours, your TripAdvisors, and some of those other websites that help you book tours. And you can also always just Google local tour companies online as well. But just for user experience and the platform, I prefer Get Your Guide. I find that a lot easier to navigate. I find that the prices are really reasonable. And the way it works is it's pretty much just like all different tour operators around the world and different experience holders. They just like use Get Your Guide as the library. So Get Your Guide just features all of them on their website. And so you can just, it's like a shopping list of tours and activities in your destination, which is really, really convenient. So I'll make sure to include those links to those websites and resources in the description below as well. So definitely check them out. But yeah, let me know what you think about Get Your Guide, because that's definitely my favorite. Whereas I know some people can be like avid TripAdvisor fans, which I am definitely not. Sorry, TripAdvisor. So in terms of travel websites to check out, you can check out ours. So ours is adventure-travel-pro.com. So I'll include the link here so you guys can check that out. We have a ton of articles and free resources to help you guys while you're planning your trip. So I also share a little bit more information about my story, some of the challenges I've experienced, and also some of the places and amazing things that I've done by being a solo female traveler. So definitely check out our website. If you're looking for resources, we have a ton on there. And you can also contact me if you have any specific questions as well relating to solo travel. Another tip that I highly suggest, it can be really helpful, is to actually create a travel checklist. So sometimes, especially when you're traveling for a long period of time, there's a lot of steps that you need to actually do, to actually organize your trip. And sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming until you actually write it down on paper and realize, okay, cool, I know now what I need to do. I'm going to gradually tick off the different steps as I go. Now, if that's something that sounds a bit like overwhelming for you, or you're just like, I've got no idea. Like, I don't even know where to start, let alone to create a checklist of all steps. Well, I got you. I have created a travel checklist for first-time solo travelers, and it's particularly targeted at people that will be traveling for a longer period of time. However, it is also valuable for people if you're traveling for a shorter period of time, because it's just less steps for you then to need to complete. So if you would love to take advantage of our free travel checklist, ensure to check out the description below and you can download a copy, get your own version for yourself. And that's going to save you so much time and stress, because I've outlined all the main steps that you need to think about. I believe there's 10 steps that you want to think about and action when organizing your first solo trip overseas. I really hope that you've got a lot of value out of this video. If you did, please make sure to thumbs up the video, subscribe to us for more tips on solo travel. And yeah, I just look so forward to holding your hand throughout this journey of organizing your first solo trip overseas. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you found it helpful. And don't forget, if you want to gain access to our free solo travel starter pack, which includes our 5-day solo travel bootcamp mini course and our 10-step solo travel checklist, simply go to our website via the link below and sign up today. That's it for today's video. I hope to see you tomorrow, where we'll dive even deeper into the world of solo travel. I look so forward to sharing all my latest tips and tricks to help you with organizing your first solo backpacking trip overseas confidently and safely.